Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for our show. My guest today is Beverly Neufeld. Bev is the CEO and founder of PowHerNewYork.org, an organization that brings together many other statewide organizations to work on issues of equity, gender, economic, and civil rights for women and their families. She is a powerful advocate and activist, and she's here to talk to us today about PowHer the Vote 2024. Bev, welcome to North Country Matters. You and I have worked together for many years on a wide variety of issues. It's a pleasure to finally have you as a guest on the show to talk about voter and issue education for the 24 election.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Donna, we have worked for a long time together. I've always relied on you for being able to reach out to, the upstate community, which is so important. PowHer is trying to represent or at least bring together all pieces of the state. And so you're our North Country Matters person.
Well,
So
that's great. So I always like to ask my guests to tell us a little bit about themselves and the work they do and why they do it. So give us a thumbnail sketch of PowHer New York and how you came to create it.
um, some of us have straight lines in their life. They go from one idea to the next, another profession, but I think for many women like myself, we have it's a river. We take a different road. And I think over time after I had my kids, I started to get involved actually with the League of Women Voters, very issue oriented work. And I wanted to make a difference. And I, soon realized that you had to understand politics to make a difference. And I worked for Congresswoman Nita Lowey for many years. And eventually I really found my passion around women's issues and got involved with equal pay. In 2007, I found out there was never an equal pay day in New York. And a group of us fixed that. We changed that. And we had, a very small gathering on the steps of City Hall. I always say we were like 5 women wearing red and seeing red because New York women are still in the red. And we didn't really know very much what we're doing. But we kicked off what became a campaign, an equal pay campaign for New York. And during the time that we started working with many, many different organizations around that, we realized that our focus was too narrow, that if women are going to have equal opportunity in terms of their jobs, wages, and opportunity, that we really had to look more broadly, more holistically at the problem. And that's when the idea of PowHer came about, where we wanted to bring folks from all different issue silos together to sit at a table, to share information, and then to take action together because our issues are so interrelated. We need to it's like a big mountain. We need to push this rock up the mountain. We can't do it alone. So PowHer became that table where reproductive rights folks come, childcare, of course, the wage equity people, immigrant rights, you know, um, reproductive rights, these are all different groups, issues come together. And that's what they do. They share what they're doing, and we together create a shared agenda and then try to move that forward. And it's been a really exciting project. And I think people find that having space to work together and collaborate is very valuable. So we're doing well. We keep growing and just trying to do more in New York.
Thank you. So, a lot of the model for PowHer New York came out of the Women's Equality Agenda, which brought together many women's organizations across New York to work on a 10-point plan for legislative reform about 10 years ago. That experience was really unique among the groups, which had never really worked together before to create a common ground to share ideas, resources, energy towards a common goal. So, one of the things that PowHer New York has done is created the PowHer the Vote campaign, which educates voters about a number of critical issues which may not actually be getting much attention during each election cycle. So how is PowHer the Vote organized?
Well, let's see. We are an election season initiative, and we've been doing this since 2016. Each year during the really important elections, obviously, we do a lot more. But I think the basis of it is that we feel that women particularly engage in politics through their lives, through issues. And so we focus on issues and try to give people information about them so that they can take that out into the world, particularly so they can talk to candidates and ask them, what would you do about this? And what do you think of that? And how will you change this for New York? So we are trying to educate, engage, and then bring it, to the conversation because, as you say, a lot of our issues are sidelined. And this is an opportunity when people are listening, especially people who want to be in power are listening. So we want them to listen to us, and we want to hear what they have to say about issues. And then when they get elected, if they do, then they know that we're interested in this and that we're watching. So we choose a series of issues every PowHer the Vote year, every large year that we're doing this, and then have experts come in and talk about it, or do social media hours, find ways to reach out to a larger community.
I think it's important to remind folks too that this is a nonpartisan effort because you're
Yes,
made up of a lot of organizations, some of which are not nonpartisan, but you follow the nonpartisan rules so that everybody can participate,
yes,
right?
yes. No one is really partisan, but some people do 501(c)(4) work. So most of the groups are 501(c)(3)s. And that's a really interesting point. We are very careful about being nonpartisan and not doing any, that means you don't do any electoral politics. Um, but it's important for not-for-profits to know that you can engage in this season and that is perfectly legal. You have to know what you can do, what you can't do. But most everything that's under our education rubric is absolutely okay for nonprofits to do. And we should not this out. Nonprofits bring so many people together, in our communities. And we should not be silent when it's really an opportunity for us to be heard.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That is certainly a tenet of the League of Women Voters, which is that they don't support candidates, but they do talk about issues and they do make decisions based on whether or not they support the issue. And then you try to
Right,
influence the decision makers to listen to your point of view. So that's great.
right.
So let's talk about this year. There are the PowHer the Vote sessions are over a course of 7 weeks. So let's talk about the individual issue areas. On week one, you sort of gave a PowHer the Vote overview.
Yes, and the whole this year, our the theme is "Power the Vote, Our Rights on the Line," and people do feel that their rights are on the line, even in New York. We have a hint that in the last election, that that in the country and in New York, there are powerful um, efforts to roll back many of the rights that we fought so hard to attain. So people are feeling that. And so we started talking about, are our rights on the line and how they might be, so that, we have a context then to look at these other issues. And it was all of these PowHer the Vote panels are online at www.powherthevote.org. And there's the video is there. And part of how we protect our rights for the future is we feel, that we do that through the Equal Rights Amendment. And that's now called Prop 1. So that was an opportunity to talk about the Equal Rights Amendment as well as the economic state of women and how can we continue in New York particularly moving forward. So it was a very enlightening conversation. We did focus on Prop 1, and so people could actually look at that and learn more about Prop 1, but also why we need our rights to be solidified,
Yeah,
in New York.
and you make some really good points there. Week 2 was Power the Vote for reproductive rights, and reproductive
Mhm.
rights are so central to civil and economic and justice rights for all of us, aren't they?
They are, and we have made amazing progress in New York, passing, different laws, the Reproductive Health Act, being sort of the basis of that. Also, more funding for abortion services. But that's not actually in this particular conversation. The speakers, the experts, they talked about that, but they really also talked about something else, which is access to reproductive health. And that access here is limited. And so they were focusing more on, what else New York women need or New York people need, to have reproductive, healthy reproductive lives, make healthy reproductive choices. And also, what is our responsibility as a state that is in the forefront. What is, what's access like? How hard is it for New York women? And then, of course, how hard it is around the country now. And what's our role in helping women who seek, abortions to make decisions that they have made and make sure they do them in a healthy way.
One of the things that we've seen here in New York, which talking about reproductive health, is how many hospitals have shuttered maternity wards. So that's a huge issue for pregnant New Yorkers who want to have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy child, is they're having difficulty finding doctors and hospitals that will take care of them. And, as you mentioned, we've seen around the country where uh, other states have actually pulled away the opportunity for people to achieve reproductive health care that is absolutely critical to their own life and the life of their children. So,
That's right.
it's a critical piece of this whole protecting our rights thing. So week 3, Bev, was Power the Vote for wage equity. And of course, that is very close to your heart, given all the work you have done over the years on equal pay and wage equity and fair pay.
Right. Yes, that's if mothers are not supposed to have favorites. But, here we have a whole list of really important issues, but that's been the issue, that I've dedicated so many years to. And New York has done well in changing laws. But for this week, for that week, for wage equity, it was also Latina Equal Pay Day that week. And so we focused in on, the extraordinary challenges of Latino workers and the wage gap that is unacceptable. They make a little more than 50% of what a typical white non-Hispanic man makes. Which you can say that's like a fact, right? We know the statistics, but what's behind the statistics? And a part of that is the jobs that women hold, the jobs that Latina women hold, and others. And many of them are low wage jobs or part-time jobs, because people don't have enough childcare, let's say. And also, we kind of become what we see. And when we don't see our, neighbors, other women working in the trades, for example, it's hard to enter that. So what can we do more to help all groups to enter higher paying jobs? And then on the flip side of that, women are doing really amazing and the important work in the care industry, and they're being low paid for that. So, and many of those are Latina women. So we looked at sort of the broad range of issues that are affecting that particular group of workers. And throughout the year, in March, April, we talk about all women. And then we have now almost every other month we focus on a certain group because race it plays a large part in the wage gap, but motherhood does too. So we look at Black women, Asian women, and we look at, what are the issues around motherhood, LGBTQ rights, so this was our opportunity, which we haven't had, and to do a really deep dive from experts and workers into the needs of the Latina community.
Yes, and in fact, we just had the Power the Vote for their care economy
That's
earlier this
right.
afternoon, and
Mhm.
the two areas that we focused on for that were childcare workers and home care workers. Absolutely essential for families to be able to live in this economy is someone to take care of their young children so they can go be out in the workforce earning a good living and also helping to power our economy. And then on the flip side, the people who take care of our elders and disabled folks, they are absolutely critical as well. So I found today's program to be particularly powerful because it so speaks to women's economic conditions.
I absolutely agree with you. It was a wonderful panel. I hope people who see this can tune into it, and hear, uh, one of the really greats in this area, which is Ai Pu, um, speak a little bit, and then there were workers and experts, coming together. But one thing that people would not realize is that the child, this is care across a lifespan, from when someone's a baby and needs it, and then as you're an older person and might need help. Um, but those two groups, the home care, workers groups and the child care, groups, they actually worked separately most, until PowHer brought them to the same table. And now they do work in coordination, um, helping each other, trying to lift up their issues. There's a budget fight every year, and I think that they try to work compatibly on that. And so that's a really important strength now for the care economy conversation. You can't kind of squeeze out of it and say, well, childcare, we're helping childcare. Well, no, we have to look at all the needs. And certainly under that are workers the workers who are not the caregivers, but who are going to work every day, who need to know that someone's there taking care of their loved one. So this is not a women's issue. This is really an economic issue for New York. And the amount of money that we're putting into childcare or to the home care industries is reaping benefits, with people being able to work, keeping their jobs, moving in their professions, and also people being taken care of in a proper way. So one of the speakers on that panel is someone who was talking as a person with disabilities. And it was really poignant to hear her and her announcing that, I'm a human rights advocate. This is a human right. So, so every time we bring people together, they always amaze us with their insights. And I think that happened today in that panel.
I think one of the most important things that Power has done over the course of its lifetime is, as you say, break down those silos because we have much more in common among these issues than we have differences. And so just like
Mm.
bringing the using the umbrella of care across the lifespan to bring together home care and child care, it makes people see it in a more holistic way. So it's been a great journey for Power, and it's certainly done a lot for individuals who are working on many of these issues to realize that other people are walking the same walk and
Yes,
facing the same challenges.
that's
So
right.
next week is Power the Vote for Housing Justice. And housing is an issue all across this state, all across this country. And it's finally getting some real attention at both the national and state level, isn't it?
That's true. And it's exciting to hear conversations on the national level, as to how are we, going to, be able to let people, live in clean, places that they want to live in and afford it, and still, in our case, stay in New York. because it's such a tough housing market. So we have some of the housing advocates coming together, to talk about what could be done. This is our chance to, meaning our community's chance to put solutions out there and to propose them. And then again, as we say, ask the person who knocks at your door for your vote, this is important to me. What are you going to do about this? And by having that panel, we're going to learn a lot about what could be done in New York. So that afterwards, we will be coming together to try to move some of those policies forward. And then
Uh,
I guess you're going to tell us that we're going to have gender-based violence as our
well, we
last
are.
week.
That is going to be the final issue per se week,
Right.
to be followed by the how to get out the vote, which is always important. But yes, the gender-based violence piece is important. It's one of the things that often it's difficult to get people to talk about, and it's difficult to get politicians to understand just how pervasive it is, isn't it?
That is absolutely true. Um, and the groups that are working on this are so dedicated. They pass a lot of laws in the last years, and we've helped with some. I mean, it's just 50 laws. It's so complicated, this. But one thing that they realize that I don't think we all realize is that those laws are really implemented on a local level. So they're going to be talking about this on their PowHer the Vote panel is actually going to looking at down ballot races, judges actually, and how important it is for judges to understand the issues that people are dealing with, including this one. Because the solutions they have solutions in place, but they're often misunderstood. We need judges to be able to to do what they need to do, which is to really understand what people are going through and know what the law is, that they can apply fairly. So that surprised me that this group, the group that put together, that they wanted to look at judges, but it sends a message that it's not about in New York, maybe it's not about the presidency, the race there, but there are so many races, all the way call them down ballot races, that are really going to affect our lives. So, who's in Congress, who's sits in the Senate, in the Assembly, in the state legislature, who's your representative in your towns. But this issue around judges, kind of is very interesting, and it all works together, to create a system that maybe can handle these problems and really help victims, in this case victims of gender-based violence. So I'm really excited to hear them talk about that.
Two other down race ballots that are very important along this issue are who is your district attorney and who
Mhm.
is your county sheriff, because
That's right.
they are critical
Right,
parts of all of this, and you need people who understand the issue so that they will, when someone comes and says, this is what's happened to me, that they are
right.
respectful and responsive and
That's
understand
right.
what their responsibilities are under the law. So I think
Right.
that's great. So you've you've got we've got a couple more panels to do, and I will put the link for how to sign up in this. But one of the things I want to make sure we get time to talk about, Bev, is the ballot issue this year, because
Right.
this year all New Yorkers who vote should flip their ballot and they have an opportunity to vote for ballot Prop 1, or it's the so-called Equal Rights Amendment, which will, if it passes, enshrine anti-discrimination measures in the New York State Constitution. This is critically important this year, given the money right threats to our rights and freedoms, as we've been talking about all along. So tell us more about that, please, and why New Yorkers will benefit if Prop 1 passes.
Prop 1 is one of those things that it's new for a lot of people, but it actually, the effort started many years ago when there was a conversation about putting sex into our new state constitution. It's not a protected category. And I think many of us felt that it takes well over 3 years to pass for a constitutional amendment to come, to be voted on by the public. And many of us felt that that's not the way we see the world so much. We see equal rights as something that is about gender, certainly, but we really wanted an equal rights amendment for all, and that is exactly what people will vote on. Yes, it will codify or solidify our rights for abortion rights, reproductive rights, and respect for people's genders. But that's just the beginning of what it does. And I'm very excited about that part of it as well, because it will give disabled people more rights under, for the state to have to comply with, as well as based on, race and ethnicity, age as well. There are laws on the books for most of these areas. But laws can be changed. We see that. And a constitutional amendment takes a long time to bring to the public and then, to enshrine in our Constitution. It's harder to change. And right now, that's what we need. We need to lock those rights in, you know. So yes, I hope everybody just kind of put in your mind this image of flipping over and looking at that. And as 501c3s, for those of you who are watching, it is absolutely all right to go out to the public and to give the public our opinion on what we think they should do, which is we think they should vote yes on Prop 1
You
and
know,
share
I
that with your
you're
message with your friends and
you're
family.
excuse me, you're right. It's an important also, I think, to stress that nothing in New York, including our state laws and our regulations, will change if ballot Prop 1 is approved by the voters. That's because each one of the proposed protections already exists in state law. The amendment does nothing more than copy them into the state constitution. It'll just change how easy it is for laws to be reversed, which is really
That's
what
right.
we want to
That's
protect,
very true.
because it takes a long time to get rights recognized, and you don't want to see them pulled away, which we have watched happen in
Yes,
other states. And the other thing is that people say, well, there's so many things in it. Well, the reason there's so many things in it is because if you don't spell them out, somebody will find a way around them. So
that's
it's better to
true.
spell them out first of all.
Right.
So as we wrap up today, Bev, do you have any final thoughts to share with us?
Well, I do want to say about the Equal Rights Amendment that just like there's disinformation happening that we see very clearly on the national level, there is disinformation around that as well. So, if you have a question about it, there's New Yorkers for Equal Rights is a place to go, or, your Legal Women Voters. A lot of people have information. So don't get trapped by some false, premises about this. This is an exciting proposition for New York. I guess, the last thing is to say that we have a chance. This is our moment to our voices to be heard. That's like a cliche, but it's a reality. And if women don't speak up, we are not going to get, people elected into office that will vote in our, interest. So right now, I think we have a sense of our power, and what we need to do is to take action and to get out there, learn what you need to learn. That's why we're doing this, and then make sure you vote as well as your neighbors and family.
Thank you, Bev, so much. It's really a pleasure to have you come on and talk about the work you're doing, because it is so central to everyone's well-being and quality of life. And I certainly appreciate the time and the energy that you put into this, and it's a pleasure being your partner in many ways in this. So thank you so much for coming in and for what you're doing, and how you are really working hard to educate voters about some of the critical issues this year.
Great, and thank you. I love your North Country Matters, effort here, but we've worked on so many issues, and your voice you know, has been a strong one upstate. You've also taught a lot of us about the whole of New York. So you've had, you know, a really important role in PowHer, I think since the beginning, right? So it's all working together. That's really the way we get things done.
It really is. It's about working together. So I want to remind our viewers that Election Day is November 5th. It's preceded by 9 days of early voting in New York State from October 26th to November 3rd. You can request either an absentee ballot or a ballot by mail if you are unable to vote on Election Day or at the polls. Be sure to flip your ballot, as we said, and vote on ballot Proposition 1. These conversations are a production of North Country Matters. This show is a civic collaboration between the League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence County and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters, and so does your vote.